Welcome to our web programming courses. In this tutorial, we are going to study forms. HTML forms are one of the main points of interaction between a user and a website or application. They allow users to send data to the website. Most of the time, that data is sent to the web server. An HTML form is made of one or more widgets. Those widgets can be text fields, select box, buttons, checkboxes, or radio buttons. Most of the time, those widgets are paired with a label that describes their purpose. The HTML form tag is used to create an HTML form. Let's write within body tag form, then close it. An HTML form contains form elements. Form elements are a different type of input elements like text fields, checkboxes, radio buttons, submit buttons, and more. Now let's study each of them. Within form tag, write input, then type, and for type attribute, let's write text value. Put quotation marks, then text. Now refresh your page. This is our input field. Here we can write any text. Before input tag, we can write any word which will describe the input field. Let's write before input tag name, then see the result. As you see, this is the text that we write before input tag. Now let's change the value of type attribute. Copy input type field, change text for password, save and see. This is our password. Let's put line breaks after each input field to be more clear. As you remember, we put line breaks with BR tag. Write BR, duplicate it. Write some words in the password field. As you notice, the characters in the password field are masked. They are shown as asterisks or circles. In this case, they are shown as circles. Next input type is called radio. This is made for making choices. Now copy this part and change password field for radio. Write radio, delete this BR text, then duplicate it. In the first one, let's write female, then male. This is our radio buttons. As you notice, we can choose both options. To let a user select only one of a limited number of choices, we must add name, write gender. Copy this, paste it within the next radio button. As you see, now we can choose only one option. Instead of password, let's write checkbox. In this case, we are going to choose from many options. For example, we can write red, duplicate this, and change red for blue. As you see, this is our checkbox. In this case, we can choose both of them. As you notice, checkboxes let a user select 0 or more options of a limited number of choices. If we write in the place of checkbox file, then it will let a user choose file. Let's try it. Write here file, then save. As you see, it allows to choose file. If we click on it, it opens the folders that we have in the computer. Besides, we can add image in the input field. Let's try it. In the place of file, write image. Then we must write image source. Check the image that we have in the folder. This is our folder and this is our image. As you see, it is named as arrow.png. Now let's put this source in our code. Write src, then equals sign arrow.png. As you remember from the previous lessons, here we can add alt and title attribute. They are used for search engines. Write here alt, then some word if image is unavailable. For example, we can write arrow, then title. In the title part, write this is an arrow. Besides, we can resize our image. As you remember, to resize it, we must write width and height. In this case, we'll write only width. Write width, then equals sign, and the size of the image. In this case, I'll write 100. Refresh your Google page. As you see, this is our image. Besides, we can add select tag. Put here select, close it. As you notice, select tag must be always closed. The select element is used to create a drop-down list. Within the select tag, we must write option tag. Let's write option, close it. Within option, we can write the list from which the user is going to choose. Here, write seasons, write winter, change it for spring, Then add summer and autumn. As you see, this is our select tag. When we click on it, it gives the drop-down list. As we write, there is winter, summer, spring and autumn. These are the available options in the list. Now let's pass to the text areas. Text area tag defines a multi-line text input control. The size of text area can be specified by the calls and rows attribute. Right within text area calls, then the number of calls that you want for the text area. For example, we can write 15. Then rows. As you see, this is our text area. It has 15 columns and 5 rows. Besides, input type can take the value color. Let's try it. For type attribute, write color. Refresh our page and see. As you see, this is the color option. It opens a new tab where we can choose colors. We can change color for date. This is used for input fields that should contain a date. Refresh our page. As you see, this is our date. We also have the value date time local. This specifies a date and time input field with no time zone. Write instead of date, date time local, and refresh your page. As you see, it gives us the opportunity to choose time as well. For writing emails, we use input type email. Change date time local for email. Now, as you see, it is the field where we must write the email address. Some smartphones recognize the email type and add .com to the keyboard to match email input. For search field, we use search. Duplicate this and change email for search. As you noticed, a search field behaves like a regular text field. Now let's put an input type where we can choose time. And instead of search, write time. As you see, this is the time field. Here you can choose any time that you want. There is also an input type called week. Instead of time, write week. And as you see, this is for choosing week. Now, if we change week for range, this will define a control for entering a number whose exact value is not important. As you see, this is the range, and default range is from 0 to 100. However, you can set restrictions on what numbers are accepted with the min, max and step attributes. If we write within input type min, give some value, for example 3. Then for max, write 9. This will give restrictions for our range. The user can only choose from 3 to 9. We can add step attribute as well. Let's write step, then for example 2. In this case, the interval of numbers will be 2. There are various ways in HTML to create clickable buttons. You can also create a clickable button using input tag by setting its type attribute to button. Now let's try it. Duplicate this link, then instead of week, write button. In this tag, it is important to write value attribute. Now add value. Anything that we will write in this attribute will appear on the button. Save and refresh your Google page. As you see, this is our button and the value appeared on the button. Besides, HTML5 suggests the button tag as well. In that case, we must write button, then close it. As for buttons, the text is written within these two tags. Text which will appear on the button is written within these two tags, opposed to input type button, where we write text in the value attribute. Right here, click me. As you see, it gives the same result. Now let's pass to input type submit. Change button into submit, and in the place of click me, write submit again. Let's refresh, and as you see, it gives the submit button. Submit usually defines a button for submitting form data to a form handler. The form handler is typically a server page with a script for processing input data. We can do the same thing with button tag. Within button tag, write type, then submit. And do not forget to change the click me to submit. As you see, it gives the same result. There is a special input type called hidden. In the place of button, write hidden. In this case, you must add name attribute. For name attribute, we can write country. Then let's add value as well. In the value part, we can write some country name, for example Armenia. Refresh our page. And as you see, it makes no changes on the web page. This control hides inside the code and does not appear on the actual page. This is used for PHP. There is one more input type called URL. Refresh your page. And as you may guess, it is used for URL, that means for the links. Now let's go to our select tag and make it multi-line drop-down list. After select tag, put opt group, then close it. But you must close it after all the options that is written in the select part. Now let's create one more option group. Change season names into color names. As you may guess, the opt group is used to group related options in a drop-down list. Create labels for opt groups, which will describe the options which are written in the opt group tag. Within opt group, write label, then write seasons for the description of our list. In the next opt group, in the place of label, we can write colors. The aim of the opt group is that it helps the user handle a group of lists easily. Now let's see what it looks like on the web page. As you see, this is our select part. If we click on it, it gives a group of related lists. There exists one more input type called number. Duplicate this code and change it into number. Now write instead of week number. See what it produces. This is the input type number, and here we can choose any number. We can also set restrictions on what numbers are accepted, as we did in the case of range. Copy this part, then paste it within input type number. As you see, the first number is 3 and the last number is 9. The intervals between numbers are 2. Look, we go from 3 to 5, then 7 and 9. In both cases, the min and max attributes specify the minimum and maximum values of an input element. Now go to our input type text and add within this tag pattern, $, and quotation marks. Pattern attribute specifies a regular expression that the input element's value is checked against. Within the pattern attribute, we write letters and numbers which users are going to use. Letters are written in square brackets. For example, we can write from capital letter A to capital letter Z, then small letter A to small letter Z. Numbers are written in braces. Put braces, then for example we can write from 3 numbers to 5. When we refresh our page, nothing is going to change, but when we write something, for example something like this, then submit, we see that it is written please match the requested format. This is written because we have written that letters must be from 3 to 5. In this case they are more. As for text area, we can add initial text within this box. To add, write something within text area tag. For example, we can write hello world. As you see, it is written hello world. We can also add text using placeholder attribute. The placeholder attribute is used as a hint. It describes the expected value of an input field. Write placeholder, then any text. For example, we can write again hello world. Refresh the page. As you see, it shows the text hello world, but in this case the letters are transparent. We can use max length attribute, which will specify the maximum allowed length for the input field. Let's add this attribute to input type password. Write max length, then $, and the allowed length for the input field. In this case we can write 5. As you see, in the input field we can only write 5 letters. The input field will not accept more than the allowed number of the characters. We can also add required attribute. This means that an input field must be filled out before submitting the form. Let's click on submit. Then it shows up that please fill out the field. We can use autofocus attribute to specify that an input element should automatically get focused when the page loads. Write in the input type text autofocus, then refresh our page. As you see, the input type name automatically got focused. There is also an attribute called tab index. The tab index attribute specifies the tab order of an element. You can write within input type text tab index. Copy this, put it in the select, and in this case we'll change 1 for 2. And we can add 1 for URL. In this case, we change 1 for 3. This is our page. If we click on tab, then it goes to select part. Again, if we click on tab, then it goes to URL. This is the tab index attribute. There is also one attribute called disabled. Disabled attribute specifies that an input field is disabled. For example, if we write in the search disabled, as you see, this part is disabled and we can do nothing with this input field. For input type file, there is one attribute called accept. With this attribute, you can see the files which have the format mentioned in the accepted attribute. This attribute lets the user choose the files which have the format written in it. Let's try it. Write accept, then equals sign, and here we can write image, then slash images with the format PNG. We can choose files with PNG format. Now let's speak about input type email and URL. At first, let's add the words email in front of the input type email. Then in the URL, write web page. If we write in the email part something like this, then if we click submit, it will give please include an ad in the email address. The same is for URL. If we write something like this, then click submit, it will give that please enter a URL. It means that it must start with HTTP. Hope you enjoy learning HTML. I will see you guys in the next tutorial.